Hello legends and super legends. Eldred here. Welcome to Veloharmony. I got the idea to do this video. I've been having some noises on my blue bike that's back there on the trainer for some time, and I couldn't figure out what was causing the noise. So today what I did is I turned off everything in the studio, got on the bike, started to spin, and narrowed it down to my pedals. Well, it turns out the culprit is the left pedal, and you can hear it. So there's something shaking in the retention system at the back. And this pedal is about 2 years old. I went online and looked at when I bought it. I bought it from Merlin Cycles in 2015. What it turns out is there are two little clips. I'm going to bring it really close so you guys can see. There are two little plastic clips. There's one there and there's one there. I'm hoping you can pick it up. See this clip up in the air? It should not be up in the air. It should be down. Just like this one on this side. That little clip there is down. This clip is moving, and all the mechanisms is attached to under this silver plate. That's what's moving. So what it's doing is it makes my left foot feel like it's loose. So even though I can ride okay, this pedal just been feeling looser. And then when I pull up, that noise that you're hearing, that's what I was hearing from time to time. So I went ahead and just went online, pulled up the customer service for Shimano. I've never dealt with them before because I have 3 sets of these pedals on all my bikes. So I called the customer service, talked to a guy named Robert. They're out of Irvine, California. I explained everything just like I just did. And he got it, to his credit, because he's not a mechanic. So he said, well, you can either go through a shop or you can send it yourself. There's a shop I work with called West End Bicycles here in Houston. They're like the best. The owner name is Daniel. He's a cyclist as well. But they're about an hour from where I live. They're across town. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do it myself. So it was pretty painless. He told me to download the Shimano customer form here. That's the Shimano form. And then get the receipt. I went to Merlin and just printed out the date of the order. I figured that ought to be enough. But then I got the idea of, hey, I need to make a video that shows you guys how to easily remove pedals. It can be very confusing, especially if you don't do it very often. If you don't do it often, it can be very confusing. So I went ahead and I popped up the pedals off that bike. I took the pedals off of the Colnago and put it on the blue bike. I ride the blue bike more frequently. So I figure I can wait it takes them, they said 3 to 5 days to turn it around. So in a couple of weeks, I should have it back and installed. But what I wanted to show you guys was when you're removing pedals, you may have heard, oh yeah, the right side is clockwise to tighten and the left side, the reverse thread, so you go opposite. Well, it's still confusing because you have to remember that the clockwise they're talking about, they mean when you're facing the face of the pedal. But a lot of times when you're removing things, especially with the newer pedals that have this slot on the back, so you basically use this tool to go in here and you work that from the opposite side, it's easy to get confused and you're tightening thinking you're loosening. Of course, you always want to put grease on the threads when you do them so they don't seize in there. These are carbon cranks, but they've got a metal plate in there for the metal threads for them to get into. So what I wanted to walk through real quickly to explain that the right side, the crank side, is clockwise, which is regular threading. Clockwise, you tighten. Counterclockwise, you loosen. But that only works if you're standing on this side of the bike, meaning the side facing away from the frame. If you're on this side working, which a lot of these pedals require that you do because you're going to end up going and feeding this thing from the opposite side, then it's very confusing because you end up tightening when you should be loosening and loosening when you should be tightening. So keep that in mind, that the clockwise and counterclockwise is gauged on the face. So the best way I can make it easy is to say that if you have one of these new pedal systems that has a socket, where you use an Allen wrench on the opposite side, just always remember that regardless of whether you're on the crank side or the non-crank side, always go to the back of the bike to loosen, because your tool is going to be on the opposite side of the crank arm because you're inserting it in there. So always go towards your back tire to loosen on either side. And then you're good. You're good as gold. So just remember, to loosen with the socket side, you go back, because the older bikes or the less expensive bikes that require a cone wrench, it's easy to remember because you're working on this side of the crank arm and on the same thing on the other side. So it's easy to know, oh yeah, I'm going clockwise or I'm going counterclockwise. The confusion starts when you start messing with this. You got all the newer pedals now, they make it easy. I love it because this stuff used to slip. They have pedal wrenches. This is not really a pedal wrench. I'm just showing you a cone wrench. The cone wrenches can slip and you end up stripping stuff and all of that. With the new system now, there's no stripping going on. You put this thing in here. What I usually do is I put it in, I tread it by hand, just briefly. Let me stand on this side, makes it easier for me. So you put it in and you start the tread. You get a few threads in there, then you take your tool. Now watch. This is clockwise because it's the crank arm side. So with the regular or the less expensive bikes, if you're using a cone wrench, you will be mimicking what I'm doing with my hand. You'd be going clockwise. As you go clockwise, it gets in. Well, because you have this tool back there, you have to turn from that direction. You would actually be going counterclockwise. And that's why, so what I did is after analyzing that, I said, you know what, I'm going to make this video and explain to my legends that easy thing to remember, if you're using the socket wrench from the opposite side, go towards the front wheel to tighten. Go towards the back wheel to loosen on both sides. Because remember, the other side is reverse threaded. So just keep that in mind. The front wheel, with this tool on the back, you go towards the front wheel. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm spinning it. If you can see the little thing right there. Let me see if I can get my hands out of the way. I'm spinning it towards the front wheel and the pedal is getting in there. Okay? And you would do the exact same thing on the other side. Go towards the front wheel, it will tighten. Go towards the back wheel, it will loosen for both of them. That's why I decided to make this video, because this can be very confusing. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off the bike. So I'm gonna use the short side because this thing can slide around just to undo. And always grease your treads. Okay, so I like the socket wrench because I can put this thing in here and just spin it like this and the pedal's coming out. So you see I'm going towards the rear wheel and it's coming out. And it will be the same thing for the other side. So just as long as you remember that, you're good as gold. And that's the easiest thing to remember. If you don't move pedals all the time, it can be very, very confusing. And you can end up torquing things and over torquing things that you think you're removing when you're not. So just remember, to the back tire, pull to the back tire, you're loosening. Go to the front tire, you're tightening. And then you're good as gold on either side. That's all I wanted to do today in this video. And if you ever come across a situation where, especially using one of these where your pedals, you know you're going in the right direction and they're hard to move, get a mallet. You put the tool in there, use the short side on this one because you don't want this kind of old, they got like a hexagon head on there. It's not for heavy torque applications. You want to use the squared off end. You put that in there, you take this mallet and you just tap this and it will just pop. When you get that initial pop, the pedal's ready to get off. Because otherwise you keep pulling and pulling, and if it slips, you can. And always put the chain on the big chain ring when you're doing any kind of pedal related stuff. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. I hope this is something helpful. This is going to go in our I guess the maintenance section on the site, because this is something that I looked at some of the other videos and all they talked about was that the left side is reverse threaded and the right side is regular threaded, but they did not tell you a short tip on how to easily remember whether you're going in the right direction or not. So just remember that, because most of the pedal system nowadays don't use cone wrenches. We're all slipping in Allen keys back there. And really you need an Allen key that gives you some good leverage. But the leverage comes from what you hold on to. You don't need a long part in the pedal. you need, like how this Park tool is designed, the short one goes in there so it's nice and rigid, and you use this as a lever, and it just uses less force for you to get it off. You know, it's the old pulley fulcrum theory. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video there, but I just wanted to go ahead and do that because I was working on the bike and I'm trying to get these pedals off to Shimano so they can get them replaced. And hopefully they will come through because the pedals have 2 years of use. The warranty at Shimano is 3 years on all their components. So I'm well within that period. I paid $150 for it. That means I got $50 a year for if it had failed next year. But I have 3 bikes, so I'm not using it that much. So it shouldn't have failed. I think it's a defect. The other 2 pedals are perfect. The other 2 bikes that have pedals. So I just took the ones off of the Colnago and put it on the blue bike because I want to ride the blue bike this week. The blue bike is my most aggressive bike, so it ends up getting the most use. That's the one I used in the Rafa Festive 500. So the Colnago will be taking a break this week and just relaxing till those new pedals get here. Okay, so leave your comments, questions, suggestions, additional information to help other people down below. But I think that this will be a nice little tip for people to help people remember, because pedal removal can be confusing and can cause all kinds of problems if you're going in the wrong direction. So be good, be calm, get out there, get your miles in, and don't let anything stop you.